Welcome to another edition of Rust Rants, where I come on and talk about, well, whatever's honking me off today. Moneyball. Personally, I thought it was a pretty good movie. Even though I'm not a big Brad Pitt fan. Of course, I'm not a big Brad Pitt fan, but I also liked his movie Fury. That was an excellent war movie. And Moneyball is something that I think you can probably trace the start of the obsession with analytics back in the early 2000s, at least as the way the movie describes it. And while everyone likes to swoon and wow over Moneyball, while people think it is, so successful, and when it comes to Moneyball, that's the gold standard of baseball and how clubs should operate, it's like, well, you know what? I don't know if I would call it the gold standard of how clubs should operate. And I just wonder if the concept of Moneyball is overhyped. Maybe even the movie is overhyped. At least that's what one former Major League player says. Houston Astros Hall of Famer Jeff Bagwell, well, he's not a big fan of the movie Moneyball. And he let that be known in a recent interview he gave with Sports Illustrated. Now, Bagwell said in the article that he is not very impressed with those Oakland A's teams from the early 2000s. In fact, he said, quote, "I just think Moneyball is a farce. They had the three best pitchers in baseball. You could have stuck anybody out there. My son's 15-year-old team could have been out there with those three pitchers." And the three he's talking about are Mark Mulder, Brad Zito, and Tim Hudson. All of them in 2002, which is when the Moneyball movie takes place, they all had ERAs under 4.0. Zito, in fact, was a 20-game winner. He won 23 games that year. Mulder, almost a 20-game winner. He won 19 games. But Bagwell, in the article, says, Bagwell made sure to mention that he understands the process of Moneyball, including valuing walks and getting on base. Well, there's a concept that seems to have gone out the window these days in baseball. Maybe that's one aspect of Moneyball they should start bringing back for more teams. Bagwell says, however, that's not enough to be the premise of a movie. And he says, quote, "I ask you to go back to 2000 and look at the records they had. I think Miguel Tejada was playing shortstop too. He didn't stink. In fact, Miguel Tejada that year was the 2002 American League MVP, and he was among that great crop of power-hitting, good-fielding shortstops that we had along with him, Nomar Garciaparra, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez." Bagwell goes on to say in the article, "I like the concept of getting on base, so do I, but to make a movie about it and to get all this credit that they were so smart." And the article mentions that Tejada and those three pitchers I mentioned, Zito, Hudson, and Mulder, they weren't really the focus of the movie. Instead, the focus was on role players like Scott Hatteberg, David Justice, and Chad Bradford. I don't even remember Chad Bradford from that movie. So Bagwell says that he named another team from that time that was comparable and one that actually won a World Series title. Bagwell said, quote, "The Braves won for 15 years with Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine. They mixed in some other great starters around them, and they had to score 3 runs a game and won 15 years in a row. Why aren't they called the Moneyball team? What's the difference?" Actually, I think he has a good point there. What is the difference? Because you look at what Atlanta did. They had a lot of really good homegrown talent. They went out and they also brought in some free agents, made some trades to bring in some really good players, some really good role players. They crafted a really good team around them. And like Bagwell said, they won for 15 straight years. I still think they should have won more than one World Series title, but you know what? That's one more World Series title than Oakland has won in that span of time. And, while Bagwell's not a fan of the movie Moneyball, kind of like I indicated at the beginning of this rant, I'm not that big a fan of the whole concept of Moneyball. I mean, yeah, getting on base is very important. However you do it, either a single, a walk, get hit by a pitch, you got to get on base in order to give the guys behind you a chance to drive you in. But this whole worshipping of Moneyball and people thinking, oh, the concept is so great. Well, let's do a little breakdown of how Oakland has fared during the Moneyball era. So we go back to 2002, which is the year the Moneyball movie took place in. So what have the A's done in that time? Well, in that time, they've qualified for the postseason 9 times. In those 9 times, they've lost the wild card game 3 times. They've lost in the divisional series 5 times. They've made it to the league championship series just 1 time. That was back in 2006. And they lost to the Tigers in 4 straight games. And not only that, but you just look at the atmosphere around the Oakland A's. Now, Oakland, they play in the Oakland Coliseum, or whatever corporate name they're calling it nowadays. I don't know. I can't keep track, and honestly, I don't care to keep track. But Oakland Coliseum is among the worst stadiums in all of Major League Baseball. I think they've been up in number 1, number 2 worst stadium for like the last decade or so. And their attendance has absolutely cratered this year. Get this. Oakland had their home opener on April 18th. They drew a grand total of 17,000 fans. 17,000 fans on opening their home opener in a stadium that seats 46,000. And it gets worse from there because for the most part this season, Oakland has not gone over the 10,000 mark for any game. Last night, in fact, the A's took on Texas. They had about 3,200 fans at that game. There have been other games where Oakland has had only 2,400 fans at a game. There are minor league teams that draw way more than that. When I was living back in Trenton, New Jersey, our minor league team, the Trenton Thunder, we were packed pretty much every single night. Waterfront Park, that could hold about maybe 44, 45, 5,000 fans, and we were drawing like crazy. Basically, we outdrew the A's in some of those games by like 2 times. That is just insane. Also, another thing that's probably not helping Oakland is they're 19-28 this season. So losing record, horrible stadium. And when it comes to the Moneyball concept, my feeling is Moneyball is good enough to get you to the postseason, but don't expect to go far in said postseason. All right, well, now time for a word from our sponsor. Does your toilet have rings that always need cleaning? Do you have hard water spots on your shower doors, calcium buildup on your faucets? Just imagine what all of that is doing to the inside of your washing machine, dishwasher, refrigerator, your hot water heater. What about the pipes inside your body? Buy a filter or be a filter. You can have clean, mineral-rich water without the buildup of unwanted toxins in your body and throughout your whole home. Call Vicki Johnston today at H2O Health and Water Solutions at 928-899-7504 or stop in and see her at the Gateway Mall. Well, folks, that'll do it for another edition of Rust Rants. Be sure to follow KYCA on all of our social media. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. Go to kyca.info. Also, be sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe on all our social media. Be sure also to leave a comment on this video, and I will see you next time.